Mary was last seen at her home on West Willow Road in West Willow, Pennsylvania, on June 5, 1984. Her estranged husband, Jerry, went to pick her up to look at a car she was thinking of buying, but when he arrived, Mary wasn't ready to go yet. She was still putting her makeup on. Her husband took their 2-year-old son to nearby Longs Park, and when they returned in the early afternoon, she was gone. Jerry said he found a note on the kitchen table from Mary, saying the car wouldn't start and she was going to walk to a local Turkey Hill Minute Market, 3/4 of a mile away. Clerks at the store, who knew her because she visited frequently, don't remember seeing her there that day, and Jerry said he threw out the note before anyone else saw it. None of her personal belongings disappeared with her. She disappeared the day before a custody hearing over their child. Mary and Jerry were in the process of a divorce in 1984, and Jerry had moved out of their home and in with his parents. But he remained in regular contact with Mary. At the time of her disappearance, Mary lived with the boarder, William Yelitz. Yelitz had come to live there after a friend of his, Thomas Whittington, had moved out. Jerry asked Whittington to leave because Whittington had been arrested for growing marijuana on the property. Yelitz lived in Mary's house for at least a couple of months, and it's not clear when he left. He stated he did not know Jerry and had come to know Mary through Whittington. In September 2022, the same month Yelitz died of natural causes, authorities searched Mary's former home on West Willow Road. Jerry lives there now. There was reportedly an area in the garage of the home that had been dug up and then patched with concrete. It's unknown whether the search turned up anything useful, and both Jerry and his and Mary's now-grown son have not spoken to the media about the search. Foul play is suspected in her case, as it's uncharacteristic of her to leave without warning. She has been missing for 41 years and would be 66 years old, and her case remains unsolved. Sandra Baker resided in the 60 block of Folk Road in Delaware Township, Pennsylvania, with her fiancé, William Thomas Jr., who also went by Billy. They were planning to marry in October 2000. She had been married 6 times before and was still legally married to her last husband when she became engaged to Billy. Billy had been married twice. Billy told authorities that he saw Baker between 8:30 and 9 a.m. at the Sheetz convenience store on Pennsylvania Route 18 in Pymatuning Township near Transfer, Pennsylvania, on May 25, 2000. Baker was driving her dark blue 4-door 1988 Honda Accord. Billy said that Baker phoned him at approximately 1 p.m. She told him she was in danger and unable to return to their home. Baker promised to call Billy in a few days, then terminated the conversation. A witness saw her driving her vehicle south towards Sharon, Pennsylvania later in the day. The vehicle was found abandoned at the Shenango Valley Mall the day after her disappearance and was repossessed by the finance company and sold at auction. Police did not discover the car's whereabouts until 2004, by which time any evidence that may have been inside was gone. There has not been any activity on Baker's bank accounts or credit cards since her disappearance, and she has not contacted any of her loved ones. Authorities believe that foul play was involved in her case. In 2005, Billy was publicly identified as a suspect in Baker's disappearance. Authorities stated that he hired a private detective to investigate Baker around the time that she vanished. The detective, Clifford Ailey, operated the Sloan Detective Agency in New Castle, Pennsylvania. In June 2005, Ailey was charged with several felony counts of hindering the apprehension or prosecution of the person or persons who killed Baker. In an effort to avoid a prison sentence, Ailey told authorities that Billy confessed Baker's murder to him. He repeated his claims in open court as well. He stated Billy strangled Baker in an argument because he believed she was having an affair. Supposedly, after the murder, he buried her body inside a container 5 to 8 miles from his parents' home. Prosecutors offered to free Ailey, provided he was being truthful in his statements and provided he had no physical involvement with Baker's murder, but Ailey failed a lie detector test, so the deal fell through. He was convicted of 3 counts of hindering apprehension in January 2006 and was sentenced to 4 years in prison. Ailey admitted that he lied to police and said he had done so because Billy had threatened to kill his children. Although investigators stated that they were certain Baker had been murdered, no one has been charged in connection with her presumed death. She was declared legally deceased in 2008, and her case remains unsolved. Diana Avera was arrested for disorderly conduct on May 21, 1982, and involuntarily committed to Searcy Hospital in Mount Vernon, Alabama. She received electroconvulsive treatments and other therapies at the hospital, and her family visited her. They said she was like a zombie and barely able to speak or walk. Electroconvulsive therapy, otherwise known as ECT, is a procedure done under general anesthesia. During this procedure, small electric currents pass through the brain, intentionally causing a brief seizure. Avera underwent this procedure because she suffered from paranoid schizophrenia. Sometime in August of that year, Avera escaped from the hospital and was never seen or heard from again. She was not officially reported missing until 2020. Her family thought she had been reported missing earlier, but found out this was not the case. Only the State Department of Health had been investigating her disappearance, not the police. There has been no sightings of her, and her case currently remains unsolved. Latrice Armstead was last seen in the 4200 block of Springleaf Lane in Memphis, Tennessee, at 11 a.m. on July 28, 2012. On July 31st, her black Acura was found abandoned and burned in a rural area near Little Simmons Road in Clarksdale, Mississippi, about an hour from Memphis. Armstead's estranged husband, Tony Bledsoe, is a person of interest in her case. There was a history of domestic violence in their relationship, and they were going through a divorce. Armstead was in the process of moving from Memphis to St. Louis, Missouri at the time of her disappearance. She had decided to relocate to get away from Bledsoe after he broke her jaw, which had to be wired shut. Armstead had an order of protection against Bledsoe, and after she disappeared, police arrested him for violating it. This was because, although the order required him to stay away from her, she was seen twice with him on the day she disappeared. It's uncharacteristic of Armstead to leave without warning, and her family doesn't believe she would have abandoned her 3 sons. She was 38 years old when she went missing, and her case still remains unsolved. Cherylyn Beardall was last seen in Henderson, Nevada on July 19, 2020. In late September 2020, her silver 2011 Ford Fusion was found abandoned on Fiesta Way, near Desert Inn and Boulder Highway. Beardall's boyfriend, Philip O'Reilly, told her family that she simply left him for another man. According to Beardall's family, O'Reilly was very controlling and wouldn't let her contact her family. She had to keep in touch with them secretly. They had 1 toddler-aged child together at the time of Beardall's disappearance, and she had 2 older children by a prior relationship and was described as a devoted mother. According to her 2 older children, O'Reilly abused them and also abused Beardall, often whipping her with a dog leash. The children, then aged 11 and 14, stated that on the day of her disappearance, they had seen their mother beaten and bloody at home. Around the time of Beardall's disappearance, O'Reilly told his adopted sister that he might have killed her. In September 2021, O'Reilly was charged with Beardall's murder. While awaiting trial, he allegedly offered a fellow jail inmate $20,000 to kill 4 of the witnesses against him. Among them were Beardall's children, and he was charged with solicitation to commit murder as a result. In April 2023, to avoid a possible death sentence, O'Reilly pleaded guilty to murder and admitted he had tortured Beardall to death. He said he dismembered her body and put the parts in dumpster throughout the southeast Las Vegas Valley. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Her remains have never been found. In June 2013, 16-year-old Ethan Couch from Texas made headlines after a tragic and completely avoidable incident occurred. That night, Ethan and his friends stole alcohol from a local store and went joyriding in his father's Ford F-350 pickup truck. He was drunk. In fact, he was 3 times over the legal limit for adults, and he had drugs in his system. While speeding down a road near Fort Worth, Texas, Ethan lost control of the truck. He swerved off the road and crashed into a group of people who had stopped to help someone with a broken-down car. 4 innocent people were killed. A youth pastor, Brian Jennings, a woman whose car had broken down, Brianna Mitchell, and 2 people who had come to help, Holly and Shelby Boyles. Several others were seriously injured, including one of Ethan's own friends, Sergio Molina, who was left paralyzed and unable to speak. Couch's truck swerved off the road and into Mitchell's sport utility vehicle, then crashed into Jennings' parked car, which in turn hit an oncoming Volkswagen Beetle. Couch's truck then flipped over and struck a tree. Mitchell, Jennings, and both Boyles were pronounced dead at the scene on the arrival of paramedics. However, Couch and his 7 teenage passengers, none of whom were wearing seat belts, survived. But what made this case truly infamous was the defense. In court, Ethan's legal team claimed he suffered from something called affluenza. They argued that Ethan was so rich, so spoiled, and so sheltered by his wealthy parents that he never learned right from wrong. Which is an absolute joke. Because the term affluenza isn't even a recognized medical condition, but somehow it worked. The judge sentenced Ethan to 10 years of probation and rehab. No jail time, despite killing 4 people. In 2015, a video surfaced of Ethan allegedly violating his probation by partying. Before authorities could arrest him, Ethan and his mother, Tanya Couch, fled the country to Mexico. They were later found and brought back to the U.S. This time, Ethan was sentenced to 720 days in jail, but not for the deaths, but just for violating probation. The public was outraged, as many said it was an example of how wealth and privilege can manipulate the justice system, while the victims' families continue to mourn to this day.